Sonic the Hedgehog. He's a gaming icon recognizable by many. He's had a ton of games since his debut in 1991. Some were good, and some were even amazing. There were also some that were bad. Very bad. Okay, really garbage. Jesus! As of now, Sonic is in a weird place. Sonic Mania was fantastic, showing that 2D Sonic can still work and succeed in today's gaming climate, but then we also got Sonic Forces that same year, and that was, well, okay, I guess. You could make your own OC and fight along Sonic, which is, I suppose, pretty cool, but that was it. A mediocre game to say the least, and what fans were not expecting for 3D Sonic's 25th anniversary. In 2021, for Sonic's 30th anniversary, people are expecting somewhere along the lines of an adventure-style game, or more so, a remake of the first 3D Sonic games, Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. The games that showed how Sonic and his friends would play in 3D, and for the most part, are greatly loved by longtime fans and what got many people interested in the series in the first place. If Sonic can show off that his 2D games can still work, then a remake of the adventure games, Sonic's first debut in 3D, can perhaps show that the adventure style can also work in today's climate. Before that happens though, let's first take a look at Sonic Adventure and see why the game is so beloved in the first place. Before we start, I'm also a big fan of this franchise. Sonic the Hedgehog was my first video game thanks to the Mega Collection on GameCube. My first experience with the 3D Sonic game was actually Sonic Adventure 2 though, that I played at a friend's house. I enjoyed watching that so much that I ended up tracking down Sonic Adventure 1 and that one. You know, since I felt I was missing something since there was a big 2 slapped on the cover of Adventure 2 indicating that there was a first one. As I didn't have a Dreamcast nor have I ever come to own one, I settled with the GameCube version dubbed Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, which is the version I'll be mainly looking at today on the PS3 because of the better graphics and frame rate, even if it has these ridiculous blue bars on the side. Back to the Dreamcast for a sec though. Most people I've talked to about Adventure 1 usually say they've played the DX version, but Adventure 1 on the Dreamcast was received with critical acclaim and later in its lifetime became the best-selling game on the Dreamcast.
Man, stay off the light speed!
My bad.
Too bad it couldn't save the darn thing from the terror that was the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. Later in 2003, the Director's Cut came out for the GameCube, and then an HD version was ported to the PS3 and Xbox 360 in 2010, and next year for the PC. So now that we have the formalities out of the way, let's start with that story. I'm J-Man0, and this is Sonic Adventure DX.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
Alright, let's dive in with that story. Oh gosh. I'm going to try to spell this out as clearly as possible. I heed that concern because the story is divided up between the 6 different playable characters. They all go through the same plot but at different times and sometimes from different perspectives. So, let's begin. The story first begins with the Master Emerald for some reason shattering with this weird liquid monster coming out of it along with this red orb of light, while Knuckles is looking after the Master Emerald on Angel Island, which proceeds to fall and crash in the ocean next to this other island. I guess Angel Island moves to different spots over time and coincidentally fell next to the place where all of our heroes and where Eggman plans to make Eggman Land. I'm still not sure what caused the Master Emerald to shatter in the first place. I think the story is implying that Eggman somehow broke it, or something, since we see his ship flying at the beginning, but whatever. Later that night, our hero Sonic the Hedgehog is checking out the view of the city of Station Square. Sonic goes to see what the police are after, and it turns out to be the liquid monster we saw from earlier, named, as the game tells us, Chaos. Sonic beats the Big Drip and it escapes by oozing in between the sewer bars. While all this is going down, some big cat's frog grows a tail from a chaos-looking liquid going into him for some odd reason, and eats a Chaos Emerald. Cool. So the next morning, Sonic sees Tails crash his plane at the beach, and after Sonic helps him, they head to the Mystic Ruins, a place connected to the city, so Tails can show off what he's been working on. Little twat. Also, Knuckles is looking for the Master Emerald shards during this time. When they get to the house, Eggman is waiting there to ambush them, and after he loses, still manages to take the emeralds and reveals that he's using Chaos, so that it will destroy Station Square and he can create Eggman Land from its destruction. Okay, but this is also when we find out that Chaos grows more powerful with each emerald it absorbs. After this reveal, Sonic and Tails set out to collect the rest of the emeralds to prevent Chaos from achieving its perfect form. And after they have a fun time of running through tornadoes and gambling, they end up with 2 more emeralds, which are immediately taken by Eggman because he sprayed them with dizzy gas. Knuckles was also gambling during that time. He doesn't really give a shit that Sonic and Tails aren't conscious.
I wonder what those guys are doing.
Knuckles does see Eggman, however, and then confronts him, where after battling Chaos, Eggman easily tricks Knuckles into helping him because apparently Knuckles is an idiot. No, seriously. Eggman only tells Knuckles that Sonic is after the shards of the Master Emerald, and Knuckles even says he should go see why Sonic is after them, like, yeah, there's probably a reason why he's after them. And what does he do when he confronts Sonic? He immediately starts by attacking him and Tails. Like, what? Why? Were you not even going to try to talk to him at all? It also doesn't help that he was already tricked by Eggman once before in the classic games to add to his idiocy. Well, after their little scuffle, they drop all the Chaos Emeralds, where Eggman comes in and says, haha, suck it, Knuckles, and gives Chaos the 2 emeralds that were dropped. After repelling the even bigger drip, Sonic and Tails go ahead and chase Eggman after he escapes to his masterpiece, the Egg Carrier, while Knuckles continues to collect the other Master Emerald shards. Oh yes, that fat purple cat is also doing something too. Sonic and Tails give chase by deploying the tornado, and then, after being shot down, Sonic falls oddly into the ground. After running around a bit looking for Tails, he runs into Amy, who is also in the city. Amy is carrying a bird that happened to escape from the egg carrier while also running away from a robot who used to actually terrify me as a kid playing this. Oh, and by the way, before running into Sonic, Amy hid from this robot by walking into the restaurant that was right next to her as the robot was coming towards her. Like, it sees her go into the restaurant. After going through a twinkly amusement park, Amy still gets captured and Sonic gives chase. Meanwhile, Tails landed in the Mystic Ruins, and not letting the destruction of his last plane get him down, he plans to make a new one that is powered by a Chaos Emerald. How does he plan on doing this, you may ask? By stumbling around until finding a random Chaos Emerald lying on the ground, and Froggy, the frog from much earlier, coming by to eat it up, and then chasing him into the underground desert? Afterwards, he gets Froggy and the Emerald, and then the fat purple cat from earlier menacingly runs at Tails, only to trip and fall, which causes Tails to let go of Froggy, with the fat purple cat giving chase to her back to Station Square. Tails takes the Emerald and creates his new plane, the Tornado 2. Sonic and Tails meet up the next morning when Tails finds Sonic on the top of a mountain after chasing the robot that captured Amy. But wait! Okay. Right before this, the big cat from earlier finally gets his frog back, until a robot comes and steals him away to the egg carrier with the cat following. Knuckles also sees the same robot and follows him as well onto the egg carrier in hopes of finding the rest of the Master Emerald pieces. Yes, that is correct. All of these storylines with the robot, the big cat, and Knuckles all happen immediately before the egg carrier takes off again, with Sonic and Tails flying after it. A lot of chasing after things in this story. After Tails effectively wins against Eggman's pride and joy, our heroes storm the egg carrier. Amy is in prison with the birdie, and soon the menacing robot that stole Froggy comes and asks Amy for the bird. Amy says no. Why not? And then together with the little bird, convince the robot to let her go. Which is odd, because the robot could have just shot Amy anyways and took the bird, but maybe I'm looking too deep into this. After being set free, she regroups with Sonic and Tails on the ship's deck. Eggman, feeling cornered, calls for the frog-sailing robot called Gamma. After Sonic trashes Gamma, Amy pleads for him to let Gamma go because they're friends. Which he does. Tails takes Amy down while Sonic handles the now 6 Emerald-induced chaos. Which also, he found his tail after absorbing Froggy too? How does a liquid monster even have a tail? Well, Sonic promptly takes care of Chaos while the cat fishes his friend out of danger, and then Knuckles later coming in for the final blow and taking the rest of the emeralds from Chaos and his shards back to Angel Island. After the whole shebang went down, the cat and his frog go and chill while Tails and Amy safely return to Station Square, with Amy heading towards the Mystic Ruins to hopefully find the bird's family, who she saw in the picture of the bird's pendant. Sonic lands after the carrier crashes in the jungle part of the Mystic Ruins and goes into the temple where he learns more about the building plot happening around him and the other characters. See, as the story is folding out, the little red ball of light has been following and helping the characters on the story. At some points in each of the character stories, they'll be randomly shown events from the past involving the Echidna tribe centered around this character called Tikal. Anyways, while Sonic is exploring the temple, Tails is saving the city from Eggman and his nuke that luckily didn't go off, and then completely curve stomps Eggman's mech, with Eggman retreating back to his base, with Sonic caught in his trail after his little history trip. Sonic confronts Eggman one final time and finishes him off and his base for good. For now. Tails goes to meet up with Sonic after the people of Station Square praise him for protecting them, with the two wrapping up the story. Oh yeah, what happened to Amy? After Amy goes to the Mystic Ruins, she decides to go to the egg carrier in hopes of finding any remaining tracks of the bird's family. When she arrives, the bird finds its family in the photo super quickly, and then is shot down by the robot that's been chasing Amy this whole time. Amy finally stands up to the hulking robot, and with the help of some electricity the robot apparently named Zero thought would help him is used against him and loses miserably. Luckily, the birdie is still able to fly and move, happily ending the overarching character stories and leading in to the finale. Huh. Wonder whatever happened to that robot. I didn't really know how to fit this into the way I was describing the story, and it was already a little confusing to start with, so I thought it would be wise to save this part towards the end. E102 Gamma is created into being somewhere around the beginning of the story, and goes through somewhat of a testing trial by Eggman. After he finishes his training, Eggman pins him against what Eggman says is his superior brother, Beta, because he has two guns I guess, to see which will go with him onto the egg carrier. Surprise to Eggman, Gamma wins this little bout. Eggman grants him permission to board the egg carrier with his brother still coming along. After he boards, Gamma along with 3 other E-Series robots are given a task to find Froggy. If you remember, Gamma was the robot who stole Froggy from his cat companion, and after, Knuckles followed him back to the carrier. When Gamma regroups back on the carrier with his other brothers, they all present their frogs to Eggman, with Gamma only getting the right one obviously. The other E-Series robots are then sent off to who knows where, but not before the one next to Gamma turns to him, and they just look at each other for a moment, before Gamma's brother is beamed up elsewhere. Eggman then gives Gamma the order to go to Amy's cell and bring him the bird that she has. But right before he goes in there, a spinning tile before he went in the room that he could have easily avoided or realized was sending him the wrong way, sends him into the opposite door. Gamma enters the room and finds some familiar looking parts on the ground, and when he looks up, he sees his brother Beta being completely reworked for a new body, and the image of this even makes Gamma take a few steps back in a complete shock. Which he shouldn't be doing, right? He's just a machine. After Gamma takes a few moments to himself outside,
This is the wrong room.
he goes into the correct door. Like earlier stated, he talks to Amy and is convinced to release her after the birdie looks into his eyes and he starts humping the floor like nothing else. After he releases her, Eggman reports Sonic has boarded the carrier and Gamma needs to take care of him. So after Gamma gets his little hover upgrade, he goes to confront Sonic, and after the two have an epic fight,
Oh no!
Amy stops Sonic to spare Gamma. Or Gamma to spare Sonic, but 3 out of the 4 scenes of this, Sonic wins and it makes sense story-wise too, so I'm gonna go with it. Wait, actually one of them was actually Tails. Gamma asks why she did that for him, with Amy stating that they're friends since he helped her out after she was captured. After the egg carrier goes down, Gamma safely hovers down with the images of Eggman, Beta's deformed body, his other E-Series brothers being beamed away, and Amy flashing in his mind. Or motherboard or something, with Eggman being all fuzzed out. Gamma decides then and there that Eggman is the enemy and his fellow E-Series robots are his friends and they must be saved at all costs. So how does Gamma plan to do this? By doing what anyone else would, of course. Going to the egg carrier and upgrading his gun so he can blow him up like
E103 Delta. Rescue complete.
After Gamma rescues his fellow E-Series brothers from the frog search and ending back on the egg carrier, he realizes the only other units left are himself and his brother Beta, which had just broke out of his room to the main deck. Gamma is ready for his final battle. He faces off against his brother's new and improved body. This Mark II Beta puts all the other E-Series units to shame. But Gamma, just like at the beginning of his tale, somehow comes out the winner. But not before Beta sends out one last cheap shot to Gamma before he explodes. After Beta explodes, a bird that looks similar to Birdie's family in Amy's story flies out. Dr. Eggman uses animals as the base for his robots all the time, so whenever you beat one of the E-Series mechs, an animal appears after it. And this one seems to be one of the birds from Birdie's family. While limping away, the bird looks at Gamma and starts to fly off, while Gamma explodes. But before he does, Gamma gets a flash in his head that we've never seen him see before, and it's Birdie's family altogether, just like the picture we saw in Birdie's pendant. Gamma explodes and the pink bird from the picture flies out, and then from the context given, meets up soon with Amy and Birdie when they board the egg carrier. Now on a less depressing note, the real story starts kicking in again with Eggman being jumped by some water. I'm joking, it's chaos! Just like these next scenes! So Angel Island falls again for some reason, and for some other reason Eggman is there, and when Knuckles goes to check on him, Chaos is there to jump Knuckles next. I suppose Chaos just dragged Eggman and his little machine to Angel Island, I guess? During this, Tails goes to find Sonic to let him know that Angel Island is falling again and they need to check it out. Sonic and Tails find Knuckles and Eggman collapsed on the ground. Knuckles lets them know that Chaos is still alive and he's made off with the 6 emeralds Knuckles had. Eggman then gets up and claiming that Chaos won't get away with this act of defying him, I guess, which is odd because I thought Eggman wanted Chaos to become perfect. Anyways, Sonic is about to get to the bottom of this when suddenly the little orb of red light comes to show Sonic what happened in the past one more time. Through the story, these events have been talking about how the Echidnas wanted to invade the new shrine they found, inhabited by these little things called Chow, to obtain the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald to gain incredible power. And the whole time the main one showing us these visions, Takal, has been interacting and making peace with the Chow and the other creature living there that protects them, and she desperately is trying to convince the head of her tribe to call off the attack. This final vision shows the Echidna tribe finally going through with their plans and easily taking down the Chow, if not straight up killing them. After seeing this though, Chaos finally reveals itself to be the guardian of the Chow and transforms presumably into his final form to deal with the Echidna tribe. Sonic gets Takal to finally come to, and when she does, she pleads that Chaos must be stopped. Sonic finally snaps out of this vision, so he and Tails can finally get a move on. By the way, Tails here states Sonic just conked out. So Tails and Knuckles have literally just been standing there waiting for Sonic to come to his senses again, except Knuckles already left, probably because the vision was taking way too long to finish. So Sonic and Tails head to the jungle to find the last emerald in Tails' plane. When they get there though, Chaos grabs the emerald by, well, I don't know. I legit have no idea how he did it. The game shows the emerald just being beamed up by a light similar to the color of Chaos, but if Chaos could do that, then why didn't he always well, a nice cutscene happened showing Chaos completely destroying the whole town, thankfully with no one injured. No joke, the scene first shows the citizens, and then when Chaos is wrecking the city, they're completely gone. And later you'll hear them chanting. So I guess everyone's just as fast as hell as Sonic then, right? Eggman then pulls up with his carrier that he had just in case Chaos ever betrayed him, which is complete bollocks, and we'll get into why that is later. Chaos easily takes down the egg carrier, which is to show how powerful he is, I guess, but we already know. Takal then appears to Sonic to show herself not as just the red orb of light, but as herself. And we learn that Chaos still holds resentment towards the world for disturbing the peace he used to have with the Chow. Takal wants to seal Chaos back in the Master Emerald, but Sonic says that won't change how he feels inside, and that just isn't right. The Chaos Emeralds have been drained of their energy from Chaos, but Tails states only their negative energy has been drained. Couldn't you tell? So all the playable main characters, even this one for some reason, come together to gather the emeralds spread across town to give to Sonic so he can transform, using the positive energy into Super Sonic. Also nice touch guys with the pink bird. I used to think that the birdie was mistextured in the scene, but this is the same bird that flew out of Gamma. The amazing track Open Your Heart Before My Crush 40 kicks in, and Super Sonic takes care of Chaos and makes him good again, by Sonic ramming into his face multiple times. Takal then lets Chaos know that the Chow live happily with the humans and they are no longer needed, and that it's time to move on. Takal force chokes Chaos as they lift up into the sky, disappearing. Eggman is shown to just kinda leave, and then Sonic also just kinda leaves because he probably doesn't want to help clean the city, ending Sonic Adventure. Also, can Eggman just build Eggman Land now? I mean, the city was destroyed like he wanted. No? Oh, okay. Well, what a story. Am I right? This story's always been kind of odd to me, especially the final story section. Let's get the positive stuff out of the way first, though. I've always enjoyed how the 6 character stories interacted and intertwined with each other, always making it feel like there's something happening along with you while you're going through the game as one character. All the characters have fairly by-the-number Sonic/Mario plotlines, with some character growth slapped in now and then, but it's very minor. Sonic just has a regular stop Eggman and protect your friend story, which is fine, especially for his first 3D title. Tails becomes more independent from Sonic, same with Amy, I think. I would say Knuckles also has an okay story, but the game really makes him out as an idiot. But the one story that really took my interest while replaying this game was Gamma. I think I love his character arc and story overall. But there's just these little things that I don't get that bug me a bit about it, but also kind of why I like it. Like, did Gamma change sides because he was shown true kindness outside of all the pain he saw his brothers go through from Eggman? Or were those feelings only because the bird inside him was different from the rest when he saw Birdie again that changed him moving forward? Or perhaps a mix of both. I like to think it was more like 75-25 from the first. Even having to think about that is what makes Gamma's story and character the most interesting by far. It's a sad tale about a robot who realizes what his master is doing is wrong to his fellow brothers and to others around him like Amy. Again, not sure if he realized this on his own volition or because of the bird inside him. Either way, it's captivating and a bit sad. Too bad I don't really understand why he came to the conclusion that he needed to destroy his brothers to free them.
E105 Zeta. Rescue
Like, I kinda get it if I think it's the bird talking, but you still don't even really see that until the very end of Gamma's story. I guess it's like freeing them from Eggman's torture, which would be understandable because of the way he saw his brother Beta being treated and used. I guess he really just realized he's a tool for Eggman and he wanted himself to also be destroyed, along with the fact that he might realize that he holds someone of Verdi's family within him. Perhaps? Maybe? Kinda thinking out loud there with that one. Again, it's not very clear, but still I very much enjoyed his storyline, even if it doesn't concern the main plot. Alright, good things out of the way, let's talk about everything else. I'm not going to harp on how it's a little hard to connect every character story together, because the game does give you clues to somewhat understand it, but not fully understand some things because stuff will happen in other characters' story when another character goes through like a train or through a level, and it's not very clear unless you really take a step back and look at everything as one story, or just look it up. So let's start with the character I refused to name during the story, Big. I never mentioned his name because the story never does besides you selecting and unlocking the actual character. No kidding. This is because none of the characters in the story actually interact with him. Besides Big running up to Tails with his menacing kanji, no one actually talks to him outside a few throwaway lines. And I can't for the life of me figure out why he's even in the story to begin with. As a Joe character? With the shit kind of gameplay style that comes with him? I don't think so. We'll get into that later for sure, but don't you worry. We will. But bottom line, it's not funny when playing through the game as him. And to add to that, what about Chaos's tail and Froggy? What? Excuse me, he's sentient water. Why does he need a tail? That's also sentient water, by the way. The tail part even willingly, forcibly combined with Froggy. Why couldn't it just look for its main body? To collect the emeralds inside of Froggy? I honestly don't know because the story never explains or gives the player reason to think of that. And it really doesn't help that the frog just goofs around going to different levels for no reason to take a unneeded swim. The character and the story of Big is just a guy looking for his frog and that's it. He has no purpose besides that in the story. His frog just happens to be the one that got Chaos's much unneeded tail, and that's really it. We'll get back to Big later though. Actually wait, no. Because there's another problem with him. And it's that the past scenes that happen to our cast randomly in the story, there's no reason for them that ever happened to Big.
The 7 Chaos. The controller itself. Could this be the emerald that controls the 7 Chaos?
Baby, stand up.
Why is he shown any of this? Why? To entice the player to play as all the characters? Even Big? This guy's just looking for his frog. I should show him the history of the Chaos Emeralds and the Chow. Why is Big being shown any of this? Because I know that purple cat doesn't care about any of that, since it has nothing to do with his frog. That's all the story's taught me about Big. He only ever shows emotion for anything when it deals with Froggy. And on second thought, why does Tikal show Gamma any of this too? No, really, why does she show characters that have nothing to do with Chaos? Like, Big just happens to find Chaos because he absorbed Froggy. But Big isn't like trying to stop Chaos. No, he grabs his frog and he fucks off. Gamma's whole story is about developing a mind of his own. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and kinda Amy are the ones who care about that stuff with Chaos. Amy kinda does, in a way that she's selfless about helping others like Tikal, so I'll give her a pass. But these other characters like Gamma and Big don't deal with Chaos or care about him at all. Which really bugs me when Big shows up in the final story after the city is destroyed. Speaking of which, let's talk about that. The final story seems so lazily put together. For one, Chaos for some reason attacks Eggman. I guess it shows true intentions that he can do things without Eggman. But what really doesn't make sense is how after Chaos attacks Eggman, they end up back on Angel Island again. I don't really understand why Angel Island even falls again. It's not explained like a lot of other things, but okay. And Chaos just snagging the emerald from under Sonic and Tails' nose by beaming it up just to have all the emeralds is just bad. Like, you could have easily just said Chaos grabbed it when he jumped Eggman, or just in fact he already beat them to the emerald because, Sonic just conked out while the story is still happening. Not the Star Trek beam it up crap. And speaking of Eggman, why did Eggman think his backup carrier would match up to Chaos? You could say that Eggman just underestimated Perfect Chaos, but that's just not the case. Because when Eggman first introduces his egg carrier, he even states that it pales in comparison to that of Chaos.
Behold my floating masterpiece, the egg carrier! But it pales in comparison to the power of Chaos.
referring to when Chaos gets all 7 Chaos Emeralds, so why did he think that this character copy would be any different? I could go on about the power of positive feelings and energy as dumb as the power for the Chaos powers to work and why, but that's very Sonic stuff to do. It's not supposed to be a deep story, but the story that it does have is an incredibly flawed one. Any other problem I had with the story, I already poked fun at, and it doesn't really need much explanation beyond that. Besides the fact that Amy doesn't kick the shit out of Zero when she can easily do this. So does Adventure 1 still hold up in the gameplay department? Well, I think so, but let's start with Sonic and work our way around. Now let's get this out of the way. I've been playing Sonic games for more than over 15 years, so when I talk about this, I talk from someone who's, you know, a bit of a veteran with Sonic. No! I think Sonic and his levels that accompany him are easily the best parts of the game, bar none, cause shit, we all know the story isn't. This, in my eyes, is a perfect transition from the 2D Sonic games to the 3D ones. The stages for Sonic are open with their own set pieces with items scattered around aplenty for those who don't just want to go as fast as they can to the end of the stage. Which you can also do with ease, not just with the levels, but Sonic himself acts exactly like 2D Sonic would, but in 3D. Sonic's control is lovely in this game. He's still fast, he gradually gains speed as you move, faster going downhill, slower going uphill, and the spin dash is just as, if not more powerful than it was in the 2D Sonic titles. Sonic can go instantly to his top speed after a spin dash, and it's exhilarating. But besides the 2D spin dash in 3D, Sonic has some new powers in his first 3D adventure. A staple of pretty much every Sonic game after this is his homing attack. An attack where Sonic curls into his normal ball while jumping and homes in on any target that is closest to him. Not only has this become a staple in modern Sonic since this game, but works amazingly to boot because it keeps the speed of the gameplay going. It really complements Sonic's speed, truly. Sonic also gets an upgrade later in the game that gives him another technique called the Lightspeed Dash. A technique that allows Sonic to beam across a trail of rings. A technique so spectacularly useless that I use it only once in the sewers of Casinopolis. This technique will also go on in the future games, but in this one, it's too slow to use and requires charging up with the spin dash, which breaks the flow of Sonic stages. What's even more useless is when it upgrades to be able to use on a trail of enemies. I tried it on Skydeck, and that just ended awfully, so don't use it. Sonic also has the biggest chunk of the 6 character story, so you play the best part of the game the most. All of Sonic's levels are amazingly fun and fast, except Lost World, and we'll talk about why in a second. Speaking of the levels, the game consists of 11 stages. Emerald Coast, which is set like a beach, Windy Valley, which is like climbing a tornado and it's awesome, Casinopolis, and it is exactly what it sounds like, Ice Cap, which is the ice stage of this game, Twinkle Park is a cool theme park with a roller coaster, Speed Highway is a stage in and on the top of the city, Red Mountain, a stage where you traverse a mountainside, inside and out, Skydeck, a stage set on the outside of the egg carrier, Lost World, that's like exploring a lost pyramid, Hot Shelter, the inside of the egg carrier, and Final Egg, Eggman's main base of operations. Now, why is Lost World the most unpleasant one for Sonic? Because the cameraman can't look everywhere that Sonic does. If there is anything to fix in this game if it gets a remake, it is most definitely the camera. I cannot even begin to tell the frustration I had during the rising water part of this stage. Everything else with it is perfectly fine. You go to run on the walls, go through the dark with a light puzzle, and ride down a water slide at top speeds. It's fun and engaging. But this snake part with Sonic just waiting, not doing anything, but it just completely breaks the pace. Not to mention the tracking the snake and where to go is awful because of the damn camera. But at least the rest of the stage is fun and mysterious. But this is a problem that hurts the other stages like Final Egg for instance, and not just the other stages, but the rest of the game as a whole. The camera behind the characters isn't controlled by the right stick, it's controlled by the bumper button to move it left and right, and that's it. The right stick is reserved for a first-person point of view to perhaps look at the scenery, because you can only use it while standing still and serves no purpose but to look at Cream the Rabbit, who they added to the DX version. Fascinating. Tails, like Sonic, controls just like you think a Sonic 3 and Knuckles Tails would. He's moderately fast, flies fast, and now has a tail swipe that can be upgraded to an endless attack. It's great! Tails goes through only 5 of the previously listed stages, and in all of them, you're racing Sonic, and one time Eggman for the missile to the end of the stage. Except you're actually only controlling the playable Tails 4 times since one is a snowboard section and Ice Cap. Tails is fun, but his levels go by in the blink of an eye. You beat Sonic in a minute or so, and then onto the hub world for the next stage and story part. Tails usually doesn't even get the full stage like Sonic or some other characters would, just usually the linear part where you take small shortcuts to beat Sonic since you're not as fast as him and it's pissfully easy too. The best one is the final one against Eggman because of all his optional paths that you can take along with the risk and reward factor going on most in that stage, since you can easily fall on Tails' final stage. Also, when playing as Tails during his playable in the past flashback, make sure you look around for his upgrade during them, because I don't think you can get it anymore if you miss it there, unlike the other upgrades where you can go back and get them later if you miss them. Can you miss it actually? I never have. Also, Tails is an exclusive mini-stage that you can go through, you know, the section in the story where you chase Froggy and end up in the desert and pop back out in the front of Mystic Ruins, the other snowboarding game. So Tails is fun, but doesn't stay around long enough, and I wish he had more levels that weren't just racing Sonic to really sell Tails. But it's still a good playthrough nonetheless. Knuckles, like Sonic and Tails, controls fine, decently fast, can glide and climb walls just like the classics, has the terrible camera that plagues the game, and has a few upgrades that look really ugly but now allow Knuckles to dig in the walls in the ground. Why would he need to dig in the ground though? Well, because Knuckles doesn't have reached the end of the goal stages anymore like Sonic and Tails do. Instead, since the pieces of the Master Emerald are scattered, you need to search around for the pieces with this little radar that I'm guessing is actually Knuckles sensing with his dreads, I think? This is a new take with the character, but one that's welcomed in my opinion for two reasons. Most of the levels with Knuckles, which is 5 by the way, is to be explored, so it either takes a level most characters blast through and can't access certain parts to, and gives it to Knuckles to explore, or completely gives Knuckles his own version of the stage. Not to mention the creative ways emeralds are hidden in this game, whether in an enemy or in the ground or a box. It's fun because even though it's just pure exploring, it's still fast, and this is due to the radar picking up multiple emerald pieces at the same time. So if you can't quite find the piece you're looking for, you can just try and find the other one that's close by. Unlike the sequel to this game, but that's for another time. And because you're exploring the levels, you don't just leave in an instant like they can with Tails, usually. Because the major downside to these levels with Knuckles is that if you use the hint system because you're stuck for whatever reason or just don't feel like giving the level a try anyways, it shows you exactly where the piece is because to call the hint flies in a straight line toward where it is, making it where it's either too easy or she'll fly straight into the ground because it's somewhere below you, but you're just not sure because, you know, the hint went straight into the ground. Otherwise, Knuckles is fun, or it can just be a waste of time if you don't want to try. Amy Rose, the girl from Sonic CD that Sonic rescued from Metal Sonic, is a playable character in this game, so how does she play? Well, for one, she's not as fast as anyone actually. She's not fast at all. Which is weird because I assumed every anthropomorphic animal in this universe was fast, but my immersion was shattered. Except when I was going upstairs with her. Well, that's a little harsh, but also not. Amy can get a nice pace with her hammer jump over and over, but her default running is just poor. Which again is crazy because later games will go on to explore that Amy keeps up with Sonic and chases him everywhere because she's obsessed with him. Now, Amy has only 3 stages in a boss fight, so you won't be playing as Amy too long at all. Like seriously, her story ends incredibly fast. But her actual stages all have to do with escaping capture from Zero, which ends in misery since you end up getting captured in the story anyways, and later escape from him from good after the egg carrier crashes, leaving him to die. Except not. But the stages can actually be pretty intense at times. Very little at times. Usually when escaping from Zero, Amy can hit him away so you can have a moment for a second or two, before he gets back up. But in 2 out of the 3 stages, doing this pretty much gives you plenty of time to do whatever you're doing at the moment. Think of it as in Resident Evil 2, if Mr. X is chasing you, after you give him a few shots to the head and went through the door, he just disappeared from the stage until the next scripted section of the quote-unquote jump scare happens. Which I guess is actually more similar to Nemesis in Resident Evil 3. But that's what happens. Give Zero a good bonk in the head, run to the next section, and boom, he's gone till the next scripted part of the stage. I suppose it would be too hard if Zero was chasing you the whole time, but that's just not the case. Because usually during the puzzle sections, you need to keep Zero away from you anyways to complete them, and it's genuinely fun to figure out a good way to keep Zero away from you, like in the shower part puzzle. But also not when the only way to do a certain puzzle is by reloading the part where Zero spawns in over and over again to hit him, or else he'll catch you anyway, so you have to keep doing it over and over again. Oh, and in that shower section, like I said earlier, sometimes after hitting him and walking away to a different section, sometimes he just won't spawn back in and you can just do the puzzle with no threat. I think it's honestly a glitch that happens frequently because it's just so weird and off-putting when something like that does happen. Honestly, my favorite parts of Amy's gameplay is when sections happen when Zero's chasing you and there are numerous things in your path to get you to slow down or hurt you, and figuring out how to get around them while keeping Amy's top speed is very fun actually. But those parts are too few and in between, and Amy's boss fight with Zero is a bit cathartic, but also piss easy like most of the boss fights in the game, which I'll get into later. Big the Cat. Big has a stupid face and his gameplay sucks. E102 Gamma, Eggman's new— no really, Big is literally the worst part of this game, bar none. His section of the game is so bad that it is a meme in the Sonic community, and the other communities as well. Like, I have friends that don't play 3D Sonic games, and they even know how big of a meme Big is. He literally adds nothing to the story, and certainly nothing to the game as a whole. Big's whole thing is that he goes to find his friend Froggy, the regular frog. I guess anthropomorphic animals can have regular animals as friends or pets too? Big's whole shtick is that he's a fisherman, so you know what that means? Big has to capture Froggy through fishing. Everyone's favorite thing to do in a video game, fish. And it's not like high-speed minigame fishing where it's engaging or anything. No, Big sits his ass down and he fishes for his friend. And the gameplay expresses this magnificently. As Big, you pick a spot in the water that you want your hook and line to go, and then Big flicks his stupid wrist into that part of the water, and then the gameplay expressing fishing truly shines. You can pull on the line left or right, let the hook sink lower to the bottom, or reel it in to get the fish to grab on. The closer the hook is to the fish, the more easily the fish will be interested in the hook and reel them in. Yes, fish. Not just Froggy, there are other fish in the body of water you're fishing in with Froggy. Why? For challenge? For these extra points you can get in the mission mode of this game? I honestly don't know, and hate this part of Big stages along with everything else you'll get to do in it. Because the real challenge of Big's first stage is figuring out how to actually fish for Froggy. Because even though I just mentioned all there is to Big's exciting gameplay, there are smaller things that you won't know until you fail for minutes on end trying to get Froggy on the first stage. For one, if your line breaks after your meteor gets past its limit trying to get the fish or Froggy, you lose a life. Now this would seem fair since not really anything else can harm you in these stages. The problem with this is if a fish, and yes, eventually you will get a fish before getting Froggy, they won't release until you reel them in. So either you take that amount of time to reel them in and using the weird, fast, and moderate speed of reeling and pulling left and right, which, counterintuitive to what I said, isn't moderate or fast at all, or they will break the string, you lose a life, and then you have to try again with that same fish still in the water, and now you need to take time to get your line to Froggy all over again and hope you get him this time and not fuck it up. Speaking of which, when Froggy bites on your hook, please pull on the hook left or right, or he'll just ignore the hook and swim away. This happened so many times until I just tried something to get him on the hook and it finally worked. The game does not let you know this, by the way. I was thinking that after he poked it a few times he was eventually just going to latch onto it, but no, he just swims away. Now after you get over that hurdle and finally get Froggy and you're reeling him in and what happened? What happened? This is just the worst. Cool, I didn't lose a life, but now I need to slowly get Froggy again and now I need to try again! It's something with the way that Froggy can't be too diagonal in position to where Big is when reeling him in, and not being caught on the edge of a lower platform also to where Big is positioned for the capture scene to happen. I'm saying this because it's the kind of crap that I notice when trying to catch Froggy. It's honestly utter shit when it happens, and incredibly aggravating. Like after so long of trial and error with the punishment being do the same thing again but slightly different while patiently waiting each time for the result, at that point you lose interest and you don't want to play anymore. But you have to see that to call in Big scene or see the final story or in general get to the final story. But you push on and you finally get Froggy. Oh wait, he got away. Can't wait to do this 3 more times. Oh yeah, Big has even more stages than Amy does. And this big pile of shit even has upgrades. Yeah, most are just so you can catch bigger fishes for the extra missions this game offers. One allows Big to float on top of water. Ooh, why does he get this? No, seriously, why? Because it's not like you can swim to where Froggy is and grab him or anything like that, because that would take the fun out of the unique gameplay Big has. You can use it to find another fishing upgrade. Okay, thanks! When I decided I wanted to do a video on this game, the one thing that was holding me back from playing it through at first was coming back to Big, and I knew it was going to be awful, and it was. So yeah, I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Big is the absolute pits of this game, story and gameplay wise. Also, moving Big around the hub world is the absolute worst, since it feels he's even slower than Amy, and is just the worst when you realize you forgot something in the previous area and need to slowly walk back to get whatever the fuck it was. In a game where speed is a central theme of the franchise, let's have a character all about waiting and fishing, a feat that only Big the Cat could accomplish. Yeah, no thanks. E-102 Gamma, Eggman's newest machine in a line of his newest series of robots. I already expressed my liking and overall appeal Gamma has as a character in this story, but how does he play? Well, you're playing as one of Eggman's machines, and your objective in every stage is shooting everything in your sights. Gamma has a time limit, for some reason, in all of his stages, and to keep the time from decreasing, you need to increase it by shooting enemies, which are also Eggman's machine. Your time gain will even stack depending on the amount of enemies you shoot when you lock onto multiple enemies. Later, Gamma will even get an upgrade that lets him hover in stages, so basically a long jump or a safe way down from falls. I think Gamma's gameplay overall is very aligned with what Sonic is known for, speed, because you're blazing through these stages as you're shooting down enemies while still platforming. It's a little mindless, but keeps you engaged with the platform aspect of the stages. Most of the levels are similar to Sonic's version, except for his intro shooting range stage and Hot Shelter where you shoot at the dolls of the main characters in his final stage. Because God knows the boss fights at the end of Gamma stages are keeping you engaged. Not counting the stage when you capture Froggy from Big, at the end of each stage, Gamma has a boss fight with another E-Series robot. These are a complete joke. All you need to do is press a button over and over again, minding the final boss for Gamma. This applies to when you fight Sonic too, and you just stand there mindlessly pressing the same button over and over a few times without moving, and you'll win. Actually, any character-on-character fight in this game is a complete joke. When you fight Knuckles as Sonic, or Tails, or fight Sonic as Knuckles, or Sonic again, you get it. You just homing attack them or jump on them a few times in a small arena and you win. No creative battles whatsoever. I mean, it makes the final boss of each story feel that much better since even though they're pretty average boss fights sometimes, they feel that much better since you're not just sitting there mindlessly pressing a button. You're moving around, dodging attacks and such, not really a thing in character battles since they suck, and aren't engaging. My favorite boss fight easily being Sonic's final boss with Eggman since it utilizes so much about platforming and using Sonic's new moves in 3D, and the boss's desperation attack to take you down with it, it's really nice. But I digress. Gamma is still fun overall and is fast in the hub and his stages. He even has a little mobile mode he switches into when you just keep moving as him without stopping, and he controls just as smooth as the other Sonic characters. Let's talk about the hub world. The hub world in the game is very simple, has 3 main parts, Station Square, Mystic Ruins, and late in the game, the Egg Carrier. Now, these are usually very easy to traverse through, kinda, but sometimes the game expects you to know where to go even when it gives you no context on where you should go. Like with Sonic's story, after you go through Windy Valley, which the game nudges you towards with the Keystone, which is good, you need to go to the sewers to get Sonic's Lightspeed Dash, and then use that to get into the casino. The only way you find this out is eventually finding the casino, which is in another sub-area Station Square that the game doesn't reveal to you it has until you stumble onto it and then you realize that you need to find a way to unlock it with Sonic somehow. This isn't inherently bad, but the game could have easily had a little cutscene or something showing that there was a little sub-area in Station Square or something. This kind of thing also happens after Sonic falls from the Egg Carrier. You need to trigger a cutscene with Amy, but only if you go to the correct part of Station Square, which the game doesn't let you know until you fumble around and trigger it. It's a little ridiculous. The Mystic Ruins also have subsections, but in the Mystic Ruins, the connections to the other places is very obvious with tunnels going to the other places. Okay, I'm fumbling around a bit, but the problem here is that it's easy to miss the other part of Station Square because it looks like part of the background. But this is the worst it gets, since after you do stuff with one character, you pretty much know how to traverse the hubs with other characters. Except, wait, it doesn't! Going around the jungle section in Mystic Ruins is the most awful thing ever. Not only do most places in the jungle look extremely similar, but the leaves and bushes in the jungle have hitboxes for some reason. Like, you can just be running around with Sonic, being lost like everyone else playing the game, and just when you start going fast to get less lost, you immediately and constantly are stopped by these bushes and leaves with hitboxes sticking out and impeding your progress. God, this place is big is just the worst. Also, finding the upgrades in this place can suck too, along with the puzzle section you do with Sonic here because of the previously mentioned problems, like how everything looks. The Egg Carrier is just cool to go around. You really only go there for story reasons. There are upgrades there for Amy and Gamma, but with Amy you can just get all of hers during the story section, and they're kinda insignificant anyways, and the green hammer looks gross. And even though I just bashed how bad the hubs can be at times, they aren't too bad because they are very contained and small. Still doesn't make the frustrating parts not frustrating, but it would be much worse if they were bigger. Doesn't excuse going around as big though, for sure. The people characters in the hub aren't really engaging or interesting at all, usually just to serve as to show people just living there, except with the lady spying and slowly getting the courage to walk up to the cashier in the restaurant. It's kinda nice. Briefly mentioning the Chow Garden. I don't really care for it. It's part of the game. People really seem to enjoy it, sometimes even more than the actual game itself. Surprises me. You do need to do it if you want to get 100% in the game. You don't need to do it to unlock any part of the story or anything, and it's there if you want to. People prefer the Adventure 2 Chow Gardens anyway. Question mark. All you need to know is hold forward, not get hit, and you'll be good. And enjoy the final boss. So, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the game's animations and overall graphics are a little aged. But you know, I'm one that believes that graphics are what makes or breaks the game. I think that's a very shallow way of thinking for games. Now, the graphics are fine for their generation, but the DX and the HD ports in general sometimes make the characters look like plastic with the extra shiny texturing on them. The DX port even sometimes changes the original texturing in the stages too, for whatever reason. Now, I grew up on the DX port on the GameCube, but even I admit that most of the original textures look better than what the DX has to offer. I will say the models of the characters in general look better than what the original had, but everyone has their own taste. But those animations can't be fixed whether it's the DX port or not. These character animations are awful. Sometimes characters will slide across the ground during cutscenes. The mouths will move in exaggerating ways compared to what's being said on the screen. Characters will move their eyes oddly, hump the floor very aggressively, or pretend they're eating an imaginary sandwich. In-game actions during gameplay are fine for the most part. It's basically just the awful cutscenes. But what about the voice performances with the scenes and the animation? What? Now, quick shout out to Better SADX. It's a mod on the PC version of Sonic Adventure, which gives it the original texturing of the stages and the character models. It's actually very nice and very well done, and runs completely fine. And widescreen support? On second thought, why didn't I just record the whole game? I think most of the voices fit their characters very well, but the voice direction and performance is just sometimes
Chaos!
But I really do enjoy these voices. Ryan Drummond as Sonic the Hedgehog was my first exposure to his voice in Sonic Adventure 2, and I'll always enjoy listening to how he brought my favorite video game character to life in English for the first time. I also really enjoy Eggman and Amy's voice actors the most after Sonic in this game. But again, it was a little rough around the edges at the end of it all, but it was also the first time full voice acting was brought to the series. Now, I don't know about everyone else, but to me, a soundtrack is a huge deal with a video game. If the game itself is great, but the soundtrack is playing just the worst thing, everything can feel different. I think most people who have played any Sonic game know that a Sonic the Hedgehog game usually has a great soundtrack. And Sonic Adventure is no different. In fact, Adventure 1 knocks it out of the park. The first stage, Emerald Coast, is amazing because of how well the song just gives you this feeling of a beach and you're just running and enjoying everything around you. An amazingly great way to really wrap the first stage together for an introduction. Other highlights for me personally are Speed Highway, Windy Valley, Skydeck, and that's not even mentioning the vocal tracks for this game. I already mentioned the amazing track that plays during the final boss of the game, Open Your Heart by Crush 40, but the character themes like It Doesn't Matter for Sonic or My Sweet Passion for Amy are also amazing tracks. And of course, I don't even need to mention the amazingness that is Knuckles' theme, Unknown from ME.
Knuckles, unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles.
They're great. I would also like to mention, even though it doesn't have lyrics, I enjoy Gamma's theme a lot too. A lot of care is put into the soundtrack of this game and it shows in strides. This soundtrack is easily like top 3 Sonic soundtracks for me. So at the beginning of this review, I said that people are hoping for the next 3D Sonic game will be something around an adventure remake or just a new adventure title. Either one, people really want it. If this game does get the remake treatment though, will people want these glaring story problems fixed along with Big's character, or will people just want the original game just updated in the graphics and animation department with warts and all, similar to the Crash and Spyro trilogy games? I think the game would benefit from either choice no matter what. I do think though, in this modern age of gaming, it would need fixing in the multiple errors that we've talked about. The story doesn't need to be remade from the ground up. It's a Sonic game. It doesn't need to talk about if killing someone for the sake of a good future is right or anything like that. But I think it would help if the story was just patched up a little and was made more coherent to know when character events happen in regards to other character storylines. Maybe throw in more moments like where Knuckles sees Sonic and Tails knocked out in front of the casino. I don't know what to say in regards to something like Big the Cat. I would just say take him out completely, but he's too memeable for Sonic Team to take him out. If people thought Big was just a minor annoyance back then, people nowadays would easily call the game just bad for having a gameplay style like Big that blocks you out of the final story. And without question, the camera needs to be fixed no matter what kind of remake this game gets. Because at the end of the day, I do still enjoy Sonic Adventure, but after going through the game again, I can honestly say what I like about it now. I like Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Gamey, Gamma, and some of Amy's gameplay. The story needs a bit of work, especially the final story section, but it's okay for a Sonic game. But that camera still needs fixing, the hubs are a bit clunky, and Big is still a train wreck, gameplay and story-wise, and honestly still brings the game down for me a lot. There's still a lot to like in Adventure, and a lot of care is put into Sonic's first 3D adventure, even if it looks like they cut corners in places. So, if the game does indeed get a remake like people hope, myself included, then I want that same love that the original game got, and the same energy that was poured into it by the fans that made Sonic Mania into this new game. Sonic Adventure 1 wasn't my first 3D Sonic game. It was my second one after Adventure 2, and I care almost just as much for that game as I did Adventure 2. The bones for a remake are right there. Sonic Adventure was the highest selling game on the Dreamcast, for a reason. Now, I think a new adventure game or an adventure remake is something that would not just be great for Sonic's reputation, but would also be great for the fans. But I think if Adventure 1 got a remake, people would want a remake of the second game, Sonic Adventure 2, just as much, if not possibly more. A lot of people were introduced to 3D Sonic and got into the series because of Sonic Adventure 2, so maybe Adventure 2 is also worth a look in the future. We'll see. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate that. This next part will be unscripted because, yeah, this is the first video of this on this channel, so any criticism or anything, any advice that you may have for me, I'll take it. I really do want to keep continuing on this. Have at me. Why did I make my first video 15 minutes? The next video I'll probably do is probably Halloween themed because, you know, Halloween's right around the corner and I love Halloween. So hopefully look forward to that if you decide to stick around. So yeah, thanks again for watching and have a good one.